Welcome back to Money Mind. 8 rounds of cooling measures. Now that's what it took to subdue the rise in residential property prices in Singapore last year. And as the effects carry over into this year, prices and transaction volumes are taking a dive. Now, according to Property Guru, private condo transactions could even fall by 32% by the end of the year, with prices dipping around 8 to 10%. But could this be the buying opportunity that property hunters have been waiting for? Money Mind's Winnie Pasquale checks it out. The numbers say it all. In the first half of this year, Singapore's private property transactions fell by 72% from the same period last year, with prices declining by 2.5 to 3%.
For the last 12 months, the decline's been fairly gradual, but in the start of this year, in the first half, it's been a little bit more dramatic, particularly in the private property space.
Property Guru says sales transaction volume in the private property sector will continue to decline. By the end of this year, the drop is expected to be 32% compared to the previous year. And prices are projected to fall a further 5.5 to 6% going into the second half of this year.
Overall, we're expecting to see a price decline of about 8 to 10% in the private space.
Property buyers continue to sit on the fence waiting for the right price before jumping in to make a purchase.
Consumer sentiments right now are pretty weak to start off, and reason being most of them are actually adopting a wait-and-see approach before actually jumping into the property market. And in fact, most are actually hoping for the price to soften further, or in fact waiting for the measures to be relaxed.
Sellers are actually lowering their expectations, especially those who are collecting keys for their new apartments and who need to sell.
Because of this, new sales volume is 3 times lower in the first half of this year compared to last year.
With the number of unsold new projects growing because of the reduced volume of transactions, is that developers are now starting also to be under pressure more to sell their unsold inventory.
The majority of developers are now holding off launching any new projects. Figures released by URA show a 52% decline in new condo launches in the first half of this year, or 5,212 units less. Developers have to also face the spillover effect of unsold inventory, which will increase supply into the market.
I guess what we are seeing is the holding back more now, particularly the new projects, and then I guess the unsold inventory with developers is probably more than we expected.
Developers are also facing a pressure to sell off their existing development due to the ABSD imposed on them if they do not sell off their property. And on the other side, they also have this QC penalty if they do not sell off within a certain time frame. So in fact, I've also seen some developers actually making provisions to mark down their prices so that they can help to generate some new sales itself.
Developers are starting to provide discounts and incentives to lure buyers back into the market. They're also developing smaller units with lower prices to cater to the mass market.
New launches will comprise of smaller units in order to keep the quantum lower so that more buyers are able to afford. Because right now we're looking at affordability based on a TDSR.
The outside central region proves to be more resilient than the other regions. 59% of the sales in the first half were from new launches within this region. According to the latest Property Guru Consumer Sentiment Survey, 28% of respondents say they're likely to buy a condo unit in the next 6 months. But is now actually a good time to buy?
If you're a first-time home buyer, it's probably a good time to think about buying because you have choice. And particularly if you're not pressured into buying somewhere, you can take your time, you can do some research.
I would say that there's never a good time to buy. If you're looking to buy, it is probably better than last year in the sense that, prices are a bit more sensitive.
I've always advised my buyer is that there's never a right time to buy or sell a property. In fact, for for prices of new launches today, most of them have actually been priced to market, i.e. that developer has already factored the cooling measures into their asking prices.
2 out of 3 people surveyed say some of the cooling measures should be eased. 56% want the TDSR to be relaxed, while 44% prefer an easing of the ABSD to afford them to buy their second property.
I think perhaps a little bit of calibrating of the measures would be helpful in terms of, say, your LTV or your ABSD.
Industry experts say that the cooling measures have resulted in a massive outflow of funds to overseas properties.
Easing ABSD, particularly for Singaporeans, maybe to buy additional property, because what we're seeing, of course, is whilst the framework is tight on buying property in Singapore, some of that money is now flowing out of Singapore into overseas property.
Based on the URA draft master plan, Property Guru has cited Woodlands and Hougang as areas with great potential. For Woodlands, it's because of the planned Johor-Singapore MRT link and higher than expected rental yield.
If you look at last 10 years in Woodlands, there's only been 5 condo launches. So there hasn't been much, and I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing, for Singapore, strong rental yields, because there is the demand for people wanting to live in Woodlands, and that's growing. So you're seeing, up to 4% rental yields in Woodlands, which is obviously an interesting investment opportunity.
Lately, the Queenstown planning area is creating a buzz due to its major transformation, which will bring increased residential demand.
Queenstown is pretty strategic because it's only like a couple of stops to CBD. And on the other end, you have Biopolis and you have Jurong East Gateway. I think with the latest announcement of the Thomson East Coast Line, I think there will be certainly interest in the east side as well. I think developments along, say, Amber Park, Marine Parade, even Tanjong Rhu.
And next up could be Bartley.
To me, Bartley area, where the new Bidadari New Town will be built.
Up next,